Hello, welcome to Enchantment of Eternity. I am some asshole with a gun that's shooting random people who get on my property, so don't get on my property. Anyway, joining me at their own risk, as always, Darrin from D's Reviews. Darrin, thanks so much for joining.
Hey, Mark, how you doing? Always a blast to get in here. Cannot wait to dive into this episode. More Amos stuff. Always makes me happy.
And there's been a lot of Amos stuff recently. Yeah. And joining us this week, Don Willi. Thanks so much for joining.
Oh, hey, glad to be here as always. Hell with the damn belt. If I listen to it or not, bastard.
All right, so let's start with the overall thoughts on this episode. So this episode for me, like when I first watched it, I was like, "Is that it?" Especially when they cut the credits after the Amos and Clarissa scene. And I was like, "No, it can't be over already." But the more I rewatched this and thought about this episode, the more I liked it. The more I thought it was actually, at first I thought it was just kind of just setting up things, but there was a lot of good things, and especially a lot of great character moments that sort of build that makes the show so great. Because if it's all plot Game of Thrones season 8 excuse me, if it's all plot then it's not very interesting. You need to have those strong character to make the big plot points worthwhile. And then they get some exciting stuff this episode as well. So I thought it was a pretty solid episode. Don, what were your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I like the episode. Listen, I have the Expanse has yet to let me down this season, and damn it, Lucky, stop. And yeah, as you can see, I got another resident here who is overly excited by the Expanse. I'm sorry, as you can see, he's fucking Lucky, stop. All right, yeah, so great character building episode for Clarissa, Amos, and even for a couple of those damn belters, and gotta see what's going on with Avasarala at some point in terms of her new position and also how she's dealing with all of this. And not being able to contact her husband. So, yeah. Darrin, I will turn it over to you, and hopefully I won't have any more disruptions from my little friend there.
Sure. I got to go with both of you, all right? This was definitely a good character episode. Not a whole lot in plot, a little bit of movement here and there. Some stuff went much faster. There were a few scenes where it was really like, we just want to show where this person's going right now. Obviously, there was a lot of Amos stuff in this episode. The Amos and Clarissa, I think, really was kind of the focus. I mean, between this and what's going on with Marco, Naomi, and Philip, I think that was really kind of the primary focus. And I'm glad that we kind of had that time where it was a little quieter, because so often, as I've mentioned, Amos is very oriented towards just get to the goal. And this was a little bit more opening up, a little bit more of his care, and also realizations of maybe he's better off not entirely on his own. So, I mean, I liked a lot of that. Even the small stuff was good. The Avasarala bit, not a big thing, but nice kind of moving forward with that character, seeing where we're going on with next. And then, of course, the drummer and Marco really kind of ratcheting up the tension there. I definitely think somebody was hearing me from last week, because they were a lot more cautious than I wanted them to be. But outside of that, yeah, I think a really good episode. And again, you're right, Don. The Expanse does not let us down in any level. If it's not all action, then it's still something entirely worth the hour of time we spend with it.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I do want to say hello to Colonel Doomsday, Alexandra, and Alyssa. Good to see you all in the chat. So a bit of chatter. Colonel Doomsday says that lots of Amos stuff. Is that a bad thing? Well, I didn't mean to imply it was a bad thing. Definitely is not. And Alexandra, interestingly enough, says that Show Amos reminds her of Show Jorah. Because they made him hot, thus more sympathetic than his book counterpart. I don't know. Amos doesn't get friend zoned, so I can't think this is Jordan. But I do. I don't know. I never saw. I did definitely think Show Jorah was much hotter than book Jorah, but I didn't get that impression with. I don't know. I never saw book Amos as ugly. Maybe that's just me. But he's described as being like bald and looking like a giant baby. And so I think Show Amos does look better than that. So I will agree. And Alyssa saying, love the Amos stuff, but waiting for Alex and Bobby to take center stage in the episode. Yeah. I'm actually, the Bobby and Alex stuff is a huge question mark for me because they're completely off book. So I don't know where they're going with this. So I'm kind of interested to see if that's going to happen too. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into some of the specific storylines. Let's get the Holden stuff out of the way because he didn't really do much. I mean, I don't think we can just briefly touch on this. There's not really much to say. He's going off on his adventure, and what's her face? Monica Stewart, the reporter, wants to come along. Bull was against it, but she, talks him into it. And for me, this is just the show's way of having another speaking character on board that Holden can interact with, and that's why I talked about last week how it doesn't even make sense for Bull to come because who the hell is running Tycho Station? But they need established speaking characters for Holden to interact with, and so why not bring Monica Stewart on board? Of course, in the books it didn't happen. In the books they just gave speaking roles to the minor characters and just introduced more characters just for this stuff. But I understand in the show medium is a different medium. It's not as easy to do that. Then you actually have to pay people more money. So I can kind of see where they're going with that. But other than that, not much really happened with traction with this one. So Darrin, any thoughts on this Holden stuff?
Oh yeah, if you're gonna have season regulars, you got to make the most out of them. If you're gonna put them on the payroll, get them on set every day when you can. That's just smart producing. Yeah, and I mean, and it's one of those things where in books you can always have the thoughts of a character or where they're going or what their motivation is. Here, obviously, you can't really do that. You have to have dialogue with characters. So. And, you've obviously mentioned quite a few times how much they've altered stuff from the book and characters that aren't there that, were supposed to show up later or they assigned to different roles. I think that's just, again, it's one way to keep the audience kind of engaged with everything as well. We've got our small little cast and where they're going. I liked Monica on here. I think that she's kind of proven herself a little bit to at least be willing to go out there. She's not a hide in the corner so much kind of person, and she kind of saved Holden's bacon there back in Fred's room. So I'm good with all of this, and I think it'll be an interesting dynamic, especially the characters. Just Bull, Holden, and Monica. You've got three very interesting kind of characters that react differently, and I think that's going to keep the dynamics on whatever they're doing with the Rossi, which is good because right now, like you said, it's really nothing. It's like, is the reactor running? Yes, the reactor's running. Oh, hi, Monica. Ready to go? All right, let's go. And that is the Holden scene pretty much. So yeah, Don, what did you think about all this?
Holden was in this episode. I mean, seriously, they gave him pretty much nothing to do whatsoever. It's just like, oh, I'm coming on board. Wait, no, you can't do that. Why do you think you can do that? Because I've been on board before, and I don't want to be kidnapped. she's right. Okay, yeah, she has access to do things and see. like, like, yeah, just like you said, Mark. They needed to have a reason for Holden to be talking to someone, and preferably someone that we already know. Um, if you guys have ever played Mass Effect, Monica Stewart reminds me of this reporter that was following around the main character in part 2 of Mass Effect. But she's a little less insufferable now than that character was. Last season, Monica, it was just like, yeah, you know what? She deserves to be spaced. But she's less opportunistic now, or at least she's seeming less opportunistic. So, like, you know what? Yeah, fine. You can tag along.
Well, I did love her little statement when Bull was like, "What are you doing on here?" She's like, "Well, I've been on the ship before when we were the first ones through the gate."
Well, yeah, no, Bull was questioning her ability to withstand like high G.
Oh, the high Gs, right? Sorry.
Which is like, sorry, I was going intense high G battle on this ship when we were the first one to get to the gate. He's like, oh, okay then, and that just shut him up. So that was great. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I was actually wondering how they were going to handle this Holden stuff, because in the books it was a bunch of, like I said, a bunch of new characters who were just introduced just for this, so a bunch of minor characters. So I couldn't see the show doing that. So I guess it makes sense to bring Monica and Bull on board to have more people for him to bounce off, interact with. So also hello to Sentient in the chat, and then Mike DiCarlo. Good to see ya. She did say she was in it for the story. Yeah, she did say that. But I think I kind of agree with Darrin. I think she's earned it, or maybe it was Downey said that she's kind of earned it a bit more than in season 3, where she let herself, her. It was cameraman in the book, but I think in the show it was sound guy. No, sound guy in the book and then cameraman in the show. Okay, yep. Got it. Who let him use her to sabotage the Rosnate. So that wasn't so good. Yeah. But this time, she actually was helping Holden uncover the conspiracy that was going on in Tycho. So I think she's earned it this time. I think she has improved.
I think just realized that the depth of the story, that, getting involved with this stuff is kind of life or death. And, you have to take it seriously. In the first, it was like she kind of ran into it. She took a bigger bite than she was aware of. And now, yeah, she's putting herself into it going, okay, I know this is dangerous. I'm still willing to do it. So character growth. We always love that.
Cool. All right, so let's move over to a storyline that's more significant. Let's talk about Amos and Clarissa, where their trip on the road. It's very sort of reminiscent of a post-apocalyptic horror. And this, again, I mentioned the B words a lot, but what the hell with it? This storyline was pretty much right out of the book. It pretty much followed the book word for word. Although they did add more character dialogue interaction between Amos and Clarissa, which I loved. I think their interactions were like beautiful this episode. I liked Clarissa's whole spiel about Schrodinger's parent. That was very interesting, her perspective, and then comparing it to Amos, who never knew his parents, and the person who really raised him had just died, and that's why he was there. And then at the end, I absolutely love Amos's whole, what Clarissa was clarifying. Like, so the plan all along, I mean, that guy that you killed was an asshole, but the plan all along was to kill this guy and steal his stuff, regardless of whether or not he was a bad guy. So is that really a good thing to do? And I love Amos's reaction. Is like, oh fuck, I need to get back to my crew. Like, and because this is what I've been saying all along, and this is what the show has really been emphasizing, that, and more than the books, which is I love that Amos uses Holden and Naomi and Alex to some extent as a moral compass. And that without him, he's just a cold-blooded killer. And he knows that he has no moral compass, so he just follows their lead because he knows that they do. And it's interesting that he brings up that without him, he's kind of losing his way again. But at least he's moral enough to recognize this, though, to recognize that he needs to get back to him. And that's what makes him such an interesting and fascinating character. And I also love how that random guy they met on the road where he was being really paranoid, is he following us or whatever, that it's showing his sort of untrusting, suspicious nature, where Clarissa's like, what are you talking about? He's just some nice guy on the road. So yeah, all that stuff was very interesting. And of course, I know that all the ladies probably love the scene where Amos stripped. I watched an after show where apparently the original plan was for him to strip down completely, but they were actually filming this in the freezing cold. So the director was like, no, at least keep your shorts on. Yeah, I kind of think Amos's plan to deal with that asshole with the gun was kind of a bad one, because he didn't know Clarissa was going to use her mods to kill him, so like what would he would have been screwed. So I don't know if that was a particularly good plan. It kind of makes me sort of disappointed in Amos. But anyway, Darrin, we'll start with you. Since you love Amos so much, what are your thoughts on this Amos thing?
Oh, yeah, so much great stuff. And really, I mean, like you said, it's the character stuff that was really so much more interesting. The discussion, you're right, the parent who is there versus the parent then who is not. Are they alive or dead? I mean, I'm a physics nerd, so I love the fact that they were doing Schrodinger's parent as a comparative is kind of awesome. And we're seeing, the similarities between Amos and Clarissa, how, in some ways they come from different areas, but they've also had kind of similar experiences, and that feel of being tossed away and not being there and kind of having to figure out their way through their world. So and even the fact that Clarissa is having that level of remorse for what she has done, but accepting that it was her that had made the choices. I mean, in many ways, a very mature kind of approach of dealing with everything. When they do meet the guy out and he goes back afterwards, he's watching to see if he's being followed. I mean, that makes sense. Amos is alone. He's back into his element. I mean, coming back into Baltimore was really a return to his old self. And now this is where his old self flourishes in many ways, and kind of like this. I honestly get him going back to the guy that was shooting, because if I ran into a guy who I didn't necessarily trust and he warned me away from an area, maybe that would be the way that I would go. I'm like, why are you warning me away from this area? It does have a fence. It's not like it's like some mysterious borderline that you cross. As for his plan, yeah, I mean, look, we know he didn't have a water recycler or anything just down the road. So we know that he was lying from the get-go. So he was definitely had this. And I loved how each thing, even as he's removing his clothes, he's making one step closer. Oh, here's my shirt. I'm a step closer. Here, let me take out my socks. I'm still a step closer. I mean, he is very methodical in his approach. And then, God, when Clarissa comes out, if you guys have seen the fantastic Mr. Fox, it's an animation bit directed by, he's Wes Anderson. Anyway, the animals come after each other when they're eating or fighting at this kind of manner. It's hilarious, and it's totally what reminded me of when Clarissa came in with the fast motion. The fact she comes in, kicks his ass, grabs his gun, picks him up, and shoots him in the head before Amos can even really react. was awesome. I mean, the shot that they did, and I think even on one of the Twitter feeds for the advertisement for the episode, it was put out that shot of Amos blood spattered, shirtless in the snow. Like, I mean, God, just what a beautiful image. Yeah. So, yeah, again, a great episode, and I'm right on with you. The end bit when he reflects and realizes. One, I'm not sure if Holden would have disagreed with that plan. If they were desperate and they needed to get to a place and Clarissa couldn't, make it on the road, they needed to go somewhere. I think Holden might have actually gone with that plan, though, maybe adjusted it a little bit differently.
Yeah, I think that Holden would have legit tried to negotiate with Crazy.
Yeah.
But Amos definitely was not. His plan all along was to kill him because he talks about a water recycle, which he obviously didn't have. So the guy was actually smart to just kill Amos right then and there, like kind of saw through it. But he had no idea Clarissa was there.
Yeah.
The one thing I will say, though, about that whole Clarissa, I didn't like the way it was shot. To me, because it was all in close-up, so to me that felt like they didn't have the time, budget, or money, or the actress wasn't very good or couldn't get a stunt double or whatever to actually do a proper fight scene. I've been kind of historically disappointed with how the show has handled Clarissa when she uses her to like attack and kill people, because when I was reading the books I was picturing in my head like a Matrix type scenario where like time just freezes and moves slow and she goes like this, and so I was a bit disappointed they didn't put in the money to do that. But again, that's a lot more money you have to get for a stunt coordinator and all these special effects. So I can understand that, but I was still disappointed in that, even though I did at the same time thought it was very cool to the way he was outright attacking him. But anyway, Don, what are some of your thoughts on this whole scene?
It's funny, like the whole Clarissa thing reminded me more of Evil Dead. If you've ever seen any of the Evil Dead movies,
long time ago.
That reminds me of, kind of a Sam Raimi thing going on there. But yeah, listen, Amos. Oh my God. Listen, the man's got some screws loose, and he's the guy that. I mean, it's funny when you hear about people lacking empathy, but then you see a character like him, and it's like you want to be on his side, but at the same point, it's like, dude, you are fucked up, like with the man in the woods, it's like, yeah, all right, he's probably following us right now. It's just like he had no weapons. He's going in the opposite direction of us. Follow us for what? Like what is he going to get out of the two of us? And then his whole thing to just go and kill a guy and take his stuff. I'm like, oof, but like he said, civilization is what keeps us civil. And, for him, he's always lived on that edge. Always. He's just like, look, he's from your hometown, isn't he, sir? Anyway, it's just one of those things where, he has a certain way of looking at the world, and he's kind of, I'm not going to say expecting for things to go this way, to kind of let him off the hook for what he's doing. But he's just kind of like, yeah, well, listen, I know the real undercurrent of what society is like when there is no society. So since, everyone is tribal, we're tribal too, I know you, I'll take care of you, and I know you'll take care of me. that's where it ends for right now, unless we find more people that we know we can trust. And until then, everyone and everything's fair game. And Clarissa, again, her motivation for why she did the things that she did totally different. So she's looking at him and his way of thinking, just like, dude, really? It's not that serious. Like she has a certain naivete about the whole thing. So for her, she's playing along, and when she sees that things aren't going to really go well for Amos, she strikes. Does the whole Evil Dead thing. That was real weird looking, real weird. But look, sometimes even visuals have to have a shorthand.
I like what was it Edward Bedeau said in the chat. You can change the sound effects, and it easily looks like Clarissa is doing something different. Yeah, but it's interesting to note the relationship between Clarissa and Amos. I think it's very interesting because they come from totally different backgrounds, where Clarissa grew up rich, like filthy rich, and Amos grew up, poor on the streets, not even officially legal, but they are both damaged in different ways, and they can relate to each other through that damage, even though their upbringings were so entirely different. So I think that's pretty fascinating. And I think it was great the way this episode explores that.
Yeah, and I actually had a question. Maybe this is more for Dawn, since obviously you've got a better idea of where things are going, Mark. Dawn, what do you think? What is Amos's plan here? He's talking about going back to Baltimore, which, we all know Eric was like, if you come back to my city, I'm going to have to put you down. Of course, this is post giant rock hitting the planet, so that may have that was pre, now we are post, rock hitting the planet, so that may have changed things up. But do you think that he's trying to just get there as civilization and a way to get off the rock? Is he just trying to get a hold of Avasarala and get off Earth? Does he want to try and take Clarissa with her? Is he going to try and make her disappear? Clarissa was killed in the incident, and now she can go off and do her own life. Like I said, Mark, you kind of have an idea, but Don, where do you think? What is Amos's plan with Clarissa? What do you think that he's trying to do? What's his goal here?
At this particular moment, I think that he wants to do what he thinks a good person would do for their friend. He sees Clarissa almost as a kindred spirit. So for him, it's just kind of like, well, we're cool. I know you would do whatever for me, so I'm going to do whatever for you. I think I can find a way for you to be safe and not have to go back to prison. So that's what I'm going to do. And maybe he'll introduce her to Eric and just be like, hey, look, I know you told me not to come back, but I got somebody who's like us. So here, take her, and who knows? Maybe she can replace be the enforcer that I used to be for you.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I was just curious. Obviously, I said, Mark. So where they're going, Mark? What's next?
Yeah, no, I do know the answer, so I'm not going to say anything.
Excellent. Yeah, that's just one of my things. Again, he's a very goal-oriented person, so I'm just kind of curious how much of his plan he's sort of thought out, or if he's just like, well, get out of prison, stay safe, get to a place where we're alive, figure it out as we go. Think about Amos. I'm good either way.
Cool. And hello to Rob from Smirking Gun Reviews. Thanks for joining. And yeah, okay, so let's go ahead and move over to the next storyline. Let's talk about Bobby Draper and Alex. And I love this scene. I thought this scene was amazing because I've been waiting for so long to get some action with Bobby Draper in her battle suit kicking some ass. And like the more I think about this, the more I love it because I really think those Belters had no idea what was going on. When they were going to board that ship, I think they were expecting like tourists who just made a wrong turn, who happened to be at the wrong place, or like intelligence officers or something. They were definitely not expecting a badass Marine in a Goliath battle suit to come out and kill the fuck out of them. And their first reaction was like, get the fucking ship away. They wanted to try to dock, and she was sitting there holding the ship. A lot of people were comparing, I didn't think of this because I'm not that huge of a Marvel guy, but a lot of people were comparing that to Captain America, like holding a helicopter in place. And once I saw those pictures kind of side by side, I was like, oh yeah, I can see that. But it was such a bad, and at the same time, Alex was on the ship planting a bomb and just blows it the fuck up. And I love how when they get back on the Razorback, the Alex doesn't even wait to strap in. He just starts the engines right away and just boom, immediately plummets to the floor. But Draper is safe, like in her battle suit, holding on. Like that was a badass scene. Absolutely loved it. Don, since you love Draper so much, you go first with your thoughts on this one.
Action with Bobby Draper. Oh wait. I'm sorry. Yeah, we're talking about the scene. All right. So, listen. First off, it opening up almost like a video game, where she just immediately, as soon as the door is pried open, just sprays the dude and blowing pieces of his face away, and then she blasts through the other dude and just pushes him out the way, and the last guy is like, holy shit. Oh, thank God there was a big metal door there. We got to get the fuck out of here. So that was just awesome to see her doing her thing. And, and again, once the Belter ship tried to take off, it was her doing her best Steve Rogers impression, holding it as much as she possibly could, giving Alex enough time to plant the bomb. Hey, listen, it worked. Those bastards got what the hell they deserved, and it was fun, Bobby Draper, Bobby Draper.
All right, so I just want to point out in the chat real quick, DeCarlo was asking, do you think Marco has some of the Martian suits since they were on the black market? I think that is a pretty safe bet that he does because, yes, they did establish it was on the black market, and he has whole Martian ships, so I'm sure a couple of them came with those suits. But they weren't wearing them then because I don't think they were prepared. As I said, I don't think they realized what big of a threat awaited them. But anyway, Darrin, your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think you guys have pretty much hit all of my main points. I was excited, but I was also a little bummed about this just because it ended up being so short. It was just such a quick move, and I was like, yeah, what happened? That's it. That's all we're gonna see. So they're a little disappointed in that, but again, only because I want more. Yeah, I love the door opening and Bobby just mowing them down. I mean, really, that was like the perfect response. I had no idea what was going to happen. The fact that they laid a trap for the Martians in this sense. I mean, because we were talking last week about, the fuel drop that they did and the fusion ball, and are they going to have to restart the engine? How long is it going to take them? Obviously, the Razorbacks got a quick start program or something going on in there. It could just ready to go. So, I mean, that's great. That solved all of the real questions that I had from last week. It was just, I like the idea. I like the fact that they set a trap. Bobby did Bobby stuff being awesome. Alex, of course, they get the thing of like, is he going to make the to the ship or not? And they get the big circling rotate. That's just for dramatic sake. I was concerned until I realized, oh, they've got the engines already started up. That would just delay things, except for the explosion part. So, yeah, I mean, again, exciting. Somebody in the chat was mentioning along also just waiting for a real long, Bobby and Alex episode to figure out what's going on. I feel like they've been sort of tapping on little bits of things. So
yeah, Alyssa mentioned that earlier.
Alyssa, thank you.
Yeah, but I honestly don't know because they're going so far off both with the storyline. So I'm not sure if we will or not. So I'm also curious to see that.
Well, the question is, are they going to kill Alex by the end of the season or not? That's a discussion I know for later on.
I mean, if they are, he would die off screen because all this happened after they filmed.
Right. Season 5. Sure.
I'm still hoping and praying for a recast because even if he's played by a different actor, I still want Alex. But that's just me.
Okay, good.
But
we'll get into that more in the season wrap-up show, folks.
Yeah. God, there was something else I wanted to say, but I'm drawing a blank on the storyline. Oh well. I'm sure. But all right, so let's go ahead and move over to the next storyline. Where are we at? Okay, let's talk about Avasarala. And she obviously is understandably very upset because she still can't find her husband. He remains missing, and of course the death toll continues to rise on Earth, which, as we see through the Amos and Clarissa storyline, is pretty much a post-apocalyptic horror situation. And I'm sure even I'm sure even the places that weren't near the meteor hits are still being affected by all the debris and stuff that's polluting the atmosphere. And I love how they pointed out. Actually, this is going back to the Amos stuff, but I love how they pointed out that what looked like the moon was actually the sun, which is part of what all the asteroid debris is clouding the atmosphere. But anyway, while she's in her grief, she's interrupted by this guy who she's like, "Oh, you're the Minister of the Interior, right?" He's like, "No, I actually Minister of Transportation, but now I'm the Secretary General." So, but what I actually love the fact that this guy recognizes that Avasarala has superior experience and is really valuable, and immediately is like, "Please join my cabin. I don't really know what I'm doing. I really need you." And her right away was like, "Yes, absolutely." Because they could have played it differently. They could have played it with an asshole coming in and like, "I'm in charge now, fuck you." And I actually think it's more interesting to have it where a humble guy who realizes he's out of his element. And again, this is another storyline that's completely and utterly off book. So I don't really know where they're going with this one either. So it is really curious to see where this will go. But is one thing that should be noted is that Avasarala actually prefers to be the power behind the throne rather than the one running things. So I wonder if that's what it's going to lead up to, that she'd be more comfortable with just using this transportation minister as a puppet while she pulls all the strings. But anyway, Darrin, we'll get your thoughts on this stuff.
It is one of those, because you're going to wonder. I was wondering, like, is she going to end up being the next that has to sort of take charge of everything, or are they going to have, some obviously, much of we do is that as each person goes down, there's a line of secession or however it's described. And yeah, the fact that he was humble about it, the fact that, I am the Minister of Transportation. I'm like the guy that was on the 6th grade field trip. I'm not the completely unimportant one who ends up being kind of the one that's important. There is something interesting about that. And I do love the fact that he is humble and realizes that he is completely out of his element. This is the duty that's fallen to him. He's going to do it the best that he can, but he knows he's in over his head. And the person that is probably the strongest leader, most knowledgeable of everything that's going on, is right there in front of him with Avasarala. I think it was brilliant that he did. I love the fact where she just said, yes, of course, just give me a moment to, compose myself. Again, also because she's freaking out about her husband. I think that, and it made an interesting scene where she is in this moment of devastation and she is still being appreciated and reached out for help. I mean, I think that's a great place for her as a character to kind of, find herself. And I think it added a real humbling energy, I think, to the scene, because obviously her focus is just, look, we're alive and now I want my husband. And he's like, I have no idea what's going on and I need your help and I'll do whatever I can to find your husband if you can help me. And I loved how it just came out. And again, very simple, very straight, not a lot of time taken. So, Don, what about yourself? What do you think of Avasarala's there?
Listen, I know she's concerned about her husband, but he can go to hell with the Belters. I mean, listen, she needed him. Was she manipulative? Yes. Was she vindictive? Yes. Was she being a good person during her campaign? No. But that she wasn't doing it for the wrong reasons, And so at the end of last season, when he's just like, oh no, you should go by yourself. I'm like, oh, that's kind of a dick move. Yeah, so yeah, I mean, look, I feel for her because she does care. She actually does care, even though it didn't come across because of the things she was trying to do to remain in power and elevate her position. But this is the outcome, unfortunately. Mark, I'm pretty sure how what happens or whatever. Listen, personally, I hope her husband's dead, so this way she can get on with her life and move on. Because she is what the world needs at this point, and she's not going to be able to focus while she's having to sit back and think about whether or not her husband is or isn't dead. So I'd rather for him to be dead and out the picture so he's no longer a distraction. The transportation minister is going to know jack shit about running a global government. So, yeah, even if he does happen to be a puppet, it's probably better that she's the one pulling the strings.
Don, that is absolutely harsh.
Yeah.
Too harsh on poor Arjun. I don't support it.
Yeah, Don, thanks so much. My drink was getting a little warm. I appreciate that ice. Thanks so much. Oh, cold. No, he should have gone to the moon with her.
I don't think so. She was being so, all right. I don't want to say the B word, but she was being the B word to him. Like, a lot of people didn't like her in season 4 because she was totally treating everyone like shit, especially him. So I'm sorry, I side with him. Maybe he couldn't hold a grudge for that long, but I think, the plot required it to happen. So anyway,
Oh, and just want to mention, Allison in the chat mentioned that our Secretary of Transportation reminded her a bit of Laura Roslin becoming president from Battlestar Galactica, which was right in the back of my head and I couldn't access it. So yes.
But that's something I mentioned in my review. And
I didn't watch that.
Yeah. And earlier, Alyssa actually mentioned how she liked that reference that I made, because that's actually the first thing I thought of when I thought of this trend. But she was the education minister rather than the transportation. But same thing. It was very similar. Although the key difference, and I believe Alice did also point this out, the key difference here is that, or maybe it was someone else in the chat. But anyway, the key difference here is that Rosalind knew what she was doing. She actually made a good president, where this guy is not going to. He needs to lean on Alicirella in order to do a good job. But so any other thoughts, Don? Did you want to respond? Any other thoughts?
Listen, I understand what you guys are saying about her, her attitude towards her husband. But she's under a lot of stress. Look, I know a lot of times when it comes to people who are in powerful positions, there's always there's no excuse for that kind of behavior. There's no excuse. Sometimes there is, damn it, okay? When the fate of the world is in the balance, and you're look, Thanos was a sympathetic character in Infinity War versus Thanos in Endgame.
I disagree.
And why? Because the end justified the means, and even if you didn't agree with what he was doing, you could agree with his motivations. And that's what I'm saying about Alicirella. You might not agree with her methods, but the motivations were actually for the good of all. And look, it's not like her husband didn't know the person that she was. He married her. So no, you can't, after 20-something years or more of marriage, act all shocked now that, she's power hungry, as if she wasn't power hungry before.
No, but she took it too far. She was using their own son's death to further her political career. And I can side with him on that.
Okay, but still, you know what? Look, okay, you're mad for a couple weeks, and then you go and you talk it out. You don't say, fucking months and, or however long she's been up there by herself. No, okay? If in for a penny, in for a pound, I mean,
couples divorce. Maybe he was planning on divorcing her.
Okay,
maybe he wanted to take a break. He wanted some space. I mean, I think that's.
Yeah, he gave her a lot of space. The point that I'm saying is, it's not like he didn't know the woman that he married, and now this is a step too far. Oh yeah, it wasn't a step too far for all of the other bullshit that she was doing before. But now, you invoked our dead son, so for political yes, she did. Okay, and if it was damn near any other politician, and they can find a way to pull on people's heartstrings, they do the same damn thing too. The difference here is, fuck hindsight being 2020. All right, we know that she was doing it for the right reasons. All right, Nancy Gao had no fucking business being in the position that she was in.
I disagree. I would have voted for her. Anyway, anyway, you're sort of talking more about season 4 now. Anyway, in the chat, Colonel Doomsday says, I want Don Willi to narrate a documentary. So, so there you go, Don. And also, there was a lot of chatter in the chat earlier about the recast. So I mentioned how I'd prefer that Alex be recast rather than written off the show. And Alexandra is really against that idea. And she actually brought up how Arjun, Alvis Raela's husband, was recast. And that was one recast I hated. I hated the actor that they got to replace him as the original actor. A lot of people were referencing Babu from Seinfeld because the original actor who played Arjun. But I know him. He played Dr. Bashir's father on D Space Nine. That's how I know him from. But I did like that guy, and I hated. But the actor wasn't available, so they got another actor. But this new, so I understand they had to recast, but the new actor they got was terrible. I thought he didn't have. He had the wrong dynamic. He played Arjun more as I'm the handsome husband guy, which I didn't like as much. Whereas the original actor was more of, you thought of him as a university scholar type. But anyway, that doesn't necessarily mean all recasts will be bad thing, because I think I prefer Dario's recast of Game of Thrones, for example. I think the first Dario was too schwarmy and slimy and much like the second one. So I think, and the Mountains recast was also like that huge fucking bodybuilder they got, like he was way more intimidating as the Mountain. So I disagree. Now I do agree that it would be harder a proposition to recast a series regular that's been with the show for 5 seasons. That would be a hard sell, but I think if they do a better job than they did with Arjun and really get a great actor who can sell it, I think it could work. And personally, I just want Alex in the story because I've read the books. I know Alex is in the story for much longer, and it would just irritate me if they just kill him off screen, or even say he went home to live with his son off screen or some bullshit like that. That I think would just be cheap writing to me, and I think that would be worse than the recast. And I'm standing by that. But that is just me.
Well, look, Mark, how dare you speak against Francis there playing Dario? Yeah, it was funny actually. While that was going through the chat, they were talking about the recast of the husband. I was almost like, I keep thinking he's going to come back because they keep using his picture up on the video call. It would have been really cold if they used the old actor's picture. Yeah, he's definitely dead. We know everybody like this guy more, so that would be harsh. That would be harsh. So I don't know. Does that mean that he's really dead? They're still using his picture. Just a thought. Sorry.
Fuck him.
Okay, so Peter says, did you notice the Easter egg on Chrissy's phone about recasts? No, I did not. Please tell. Yeah, let's see. And Cynthia says, first Dario was horrible. Alex is opposite of that in the main character. Yeah, that's true. Alex has been around in the show much longer than the first Dario, so it would be different, but I still think they could pull it off. That's just me. I was personally, even if it's not as good and it's an odd and you just can't get used to the actor, to me that would still be preferable. Like it's like the lesser of two evils. To me, it would still be preferable for them, like killing him off screen or saying he went home. He went to his home planet, or Poochie, like Poochie returned to his home planet. Like doing that or killing him off screen, I think would be worse. But that's just me.
Bull takes over as the new pilot. He does have that dropship training, right?
Yeah, I don't know. No, he needs to run Tycho for fun. Who's running? Yeah.
Anyway. It was almost taken over, but the chief of security can go take off. That's fun.
Okay, so Perdier clarifies other people in her phone book, Clegane G, Banks V, Who, Doctor. Oh, okay. Okay. That's interesting. I didn't notice that. All right. Okay.
Oh, I'm gonna have to go back and look at that now.
Okay, so Alyssa agrees with me on Alex. Thank you. At least someone's on my side. Anyway, let's go ahead and get into the next topic and talk about. Let's go over to the Pella. The good old Marco and Aris, everyone's favorite character. I love this guy so much. He's such a fan favorite. People just love to see it. Anyway, so let's talk about Naomi, because we get a few interesting scenes with her, which I actually forgot to mention in my review, where it seems like Philip is kind of warming up to her a bit more. And it's interesting, and we'll get to the drummer stuff later, but I want to touch on Philip first. But it is interesting in that scene with Drummer where she mentions Naomi, and she tells Philip, "Oh, I'll be sure to tell her." He's like, "What? You don't have to tell her." And then Marco just gives him that glare, like he was like, "Oh, okay, sure." And that was such a mistake on Mark. If he wanted Drummer not to know Naomi's there, he should have maybe told Philip so he was in on it before, ahead of time. But it is interesting that when Drummer mentioned the whole thing with how Naomi helped save the whole freaking universe or at least the whole solar system back with the ring gate situation, and that piqued his interest, so he went to her and he was sort of, "Oh, tell me about this," and you could tell that he needs that sort of mother relationship in his life, which makes a lot of sense, and that's probably the whole reason why he brought her there in the first place. And now he's really curious to see that she's some sort of hero, and that makes him admire her more. But then Marco, of course, is watching this, the peeping Tom he is watching this go down on screen, and he's not so pleased about this, because this means Philip is slipping from his control, from his sort of mind control, which is setting up from a very interesting dynamic. So anyway, Darrin, we'll start with you. What were your thoughts on the sort of Phillips and Naomi stuff?
I'm actually glad you came to that, because I do want to recant my last week's statement that Marco is at least trying to be his own version of a good parent. No, he's not. Screw that guy. Yeah, it is. I actually kind of like Philip as a role and the actor playing him, because I do think that there is, he's trying to play a, young, tough, dedicated to his dad's mission here, and knows what his position is. And yet now finding there's a lot more that he doesn't know and isn't aware of. And it is piquing his curiosity. I mean, like you had said, Mark, the reason Naomi is here is because he kind of does miss that motherly influence. And the more that he is around her and listens to her, the more she is going to get, into his mind and be able to make that connections. And you're right. It's exactly what Marco doesn't want. And I do love these little moments, because, Philip wants to be, you can tell from the character, a very straightforward individual. Marco is all about deception, where Philip wants to be proud of who he is and what he has done and where he is going. And I think he doesn't deal with that holding of secrets well. Obviously put up with that last scene with Drummer on the, I can tell her. I'll be quiet here. Never mind. I can keep a secret. Which of course is, only going to open up, I think, more opportunities later on, which we'll get into. But yeah, I mean, I just like the dynamic. I like the fact that she is getting in there, that these stories of who she is, her strength of character is shining through, despite being, shoved into her quarters and being untrusted and all of that. So yeah, though she could be spaced at any point. But at least the girl that wants to space her is now on Drummer's ship, so she might get a little bit of a reprieve for that.
Yes, thanks for mentioning that. That's another thing I forgot to mention, is the whole thing where Marco was like, "I'm, go ahead and space Naomi," but that other, I can't remember that woman's name. Carl Doomsday in the chat mentioned. Kaba, is that her name?
I think so.
If you say so. Anyway, how Marco asked Sin and Philip, two people he knew would be against it. And so I think Kaba pointed out, like, if you really wanted their space, you would have asked me. And he would have. So that whole thing was just a manipulation, just a ploy to see how far he could push them. And yeah, it shows what a manipulative bastard he is. But anyway, Don, your thoughts on this whole thing?
Listen, I've said it before. Naomi should have stayed her ass with Holden. She wouldn't be in this position right now. You know, look, I understand she wanted to try to save her son. Is he worth saving? Don't know. Obviously, his father is a piece of shit. Biggest piece of shit in the galaxy right now. And it's one of those things where, is he going to be able to look at himself in the mirror? Only time will tell. But right now, he doesn't seem to really give a shit. He's just like, oh, I want Father's approval because Father, big belter man, he the belter leader. And you leave me, so you know like the family. And so, I mean, she's trying to talk sense into him in the middle of a senseless situation. Now she does seem to be breaking through. There was the whole thing with Drummer telling him that, oh, your mom was a hero and all that, and so now he wants to find. He's like, oh, I hear you do big good things. You tell me about big good things you do, Mama. Forgive me for my absolute horrible. But that's just how he sounds in my head to me. All right. So obviously he's warming up to her. Marco doesn't really care. I don't think. Look, I'm gonna make a prediction here. The old man, he's gonna get it. He's gonna wind up dying, and Philip is gonna wind up being close to death at some point, and Marco is gonna wind up abandoning him. Well, go ahead.
Sorry, I just wanted to jump in. That line with her, oh, by it's Corral, not Kava.
Okay.
DL says that in chat and just looked it up. The statement when Naomi tells Philip that he would never die for you, but he would let you die for him, I thought was just such a perfect nail on the head way of defining that relationship. And I think it is the one thing that's probably going to sit inside of Philip and really make him think, especially as he sees what happens around the crew and everything else and whatever is going to happen. I'm sure that will be a point that will come back up. But yeah, just love that scene, how she was able to just succinctly identify, what their relationship was and what Marco's limitations were.
Yeah. So, I mean, hopefully he gets that through his head, but somehow I don't think he's gonna realize until it's too late. I have a feeling that Marco is going to wind up escaping at the end of this season. But at some point, Philip is going to get hurt in the mix, and then he's going to realize, oh, Mama, I so sorry. You right. Father, big belt of mine, but Father no good. I don't want to be like Father anymore. I don't want to be killer. Please don't let me die.
That's an interesting prediction. Alyssa in the chat has a different prediction. She says that it seems to me they are building toward a Philip betrayal of Marco, and I'm here for it. And of course, my lips are completely sealed. But that's interesting to hear the different predictions on what's going on. And Alyssa is a fan of the Philip impression, Don.
All right, thanking you very much. All the way from the belt. Big belt.
Battle up. Oh,
I'm gonna have to work on my Beltal accent now. I feel all left out.
There's I only know a couple words, so that's all I can say. Anyway, oye, batalada, enalada. Anyway, stupid. Oh, someone earlier mentioned, like when I asked who was running Tycho, someone said like Sakai was running Tycho. I'm like, no, oh no, absolutely not. Anyway, I mean, Bull just left her there, so maybe. But anyway, let's go ahead and talk about Kamina Drummer. Now, Darrin, talking about predictions you got wrong, and I believe Alyssa was saying this too. It's like you really, really hoping for Drummer to shoot Marco in the head, but unfortunately, that is not the events that happened. Marco called on her to pay tribute and sort of to join his cause. And I actually really love these things. I think, again, there was a lot of subtext beyond, and I like how we had that scene beforehand that showed, again, I don't know all their names, but it showed some of the various drummers' crew, how they all have a polyamorous relationship. So a different one of them, this woman who coupled up with Drummer, and a couple episodes ago is coupling up with this other guy, and they're talking about how they need to watch out for Drummer and make sure he doesn't do anything to endanger them. And I think they're very smart to have that attitude, because when they go on board to meet Marco, the first thing she does is try to antagonize him. So, oh, where's your throne? And then starts giving him shit about, of course, of killing two people that she really cared about, Fred Johnson and Ashford. And I love how she kind of like scolds him and tells him, like, that song Ashford was singing was actually a lullaby he used to sing to his daughter. It wasn't like he wasn't afraid. It wasn't that he was just consoling himself and thinking about family. It kind of does seem like a way of saying fuck you to him, really. And so she was really antagonizing Marcus. So they had to kind of step in and be like, no, it's all good. So, why we're here and all that. Now, they lay out a situation here, and I love when they all return to Drummer and her crew return to her ship, and they're discussing things. And the one guy, again, I don't know the names, but the one guy sort of just puts an end to it. It's like, look, you're all acting like we have a choice. Marco is acting like we have a choice, but in reality, we do not have a choice. And I think, and this is maybe something the show hasn't explored well enough, the sort of political situation that is going on now. Because in the books, they kind of make it really clear that Marco has a really sizable, powerful force that actually can really withstand the Inners, especially since they're both damaged and looking their wounds. Mars, half their people population left. Most of their militaries are traitors and started selling shit to the Belters. And Earth is just dealing with the devastation of an apocalyptic measure, so not really in a position to go after Marco right now. So Marco pretty much has free reign to run and control the outer planets at the moment, and they're realizing this, and they're realizing if we don't join up with them, we're fucked. Like the UN is just going to hunt us down without his protection. And so they're kind of forced to join with them. And I love how Marco, and this is very clever of Marco, how he knows not to trust Drummer complicitly. So he does this sort of personnel exchange. But really what he's doing is holding her man hostage. Now, I'm sure he's going to treat him very well while he's on board. But if Drummer steps out of line, then he's, his life is in danger, and he's going to be the collateral. Like, oh, if you cross me, I'm just going to kill your guy. And especially, and it's kind of dumb of Drummer to emphasize. I know she was trying to say, oh, treat him well, because she emphasized he's family. That just gives Marco more leverage. And also, the personnel that's going on board her ship is going to act like a spy and make sure that Drummer doesn't step out of line. So she's in a very precarious situation and forced to make a deal with the devil. And you can tell how much she does not like it and how much she's really, really regretting not killing him when she had the chance. So I find that fascinating. I think that's really dynamic storytelling. Anyway, Don, we'll start with you. Your thoughts on the whole Drummer situation.
I mean, obvious foreshadowing is obvious. Marco put his person on her ship because, for one, he knows that her and Naomi are cool, which means that there's a possibility that she's going to be cool with Holden. He's already on the way to try to intercept Holden, but just in case, maybe he have to do a little prison shank on Drummer there, take over her ship, ID captain now. We answer to Marco Arnados, boom, there you go. So yeah, that was, I mean, that to me was too obvious of a tell, because you put the one person who absolutely hates Naomi on Naomi's best friend's ship. Like, yeah, that's obviously gonna go so well. But I do like what the one belter said about them not having a choice. It's like, yeah, Marco says we have a choice because it sounds good. He wants to present this face like, yeah, look, it's all of us together. Peace, love, harmony, all stuff. Belters together against the inners. The inners are going to come after you, but big belter leader, I can keep you safe. Come under my embrace, and I can help everyone. The belt, we will all be united. Belter. Yeah, and he's like, dude, no, we are fucked. All right, if we go back out there on our own, if the inners don't get us, Marco is gonna wind up killing us one way or the other. So we gotta join him, or die pretty much at this point. Like, he screwed us all. He threw those rocks, blew up the damn Martian Senate. Yeah, we got no choice. We gotta be with him now. Like, even if we protest that, hey, no, we had nothing to do with what Marco Arnados did. We're belters, and belters just ruined two of the inner planets. Yeah, all right. So, look, I'm in. I got nothing better to do in my life at this point. So, any of the rest of you who are objecting to this are just idiots. You want to go out, you want to be in the vacuum out there and die, you go to the vacuum and die. I can at least have a fighting chance being with this lunatic. All right. I guess we're good. Bye.
All right, so just want to point out real quick in the chat, I believe Peter asked if I knew that one of the characters on Drummer's ship, one of those crewmates is named Michio, and yes, I was aware of that. I noticed that in the sort of casting list. Now, Michio is the character that Drummer is essentially from the book that Drummer is taking the place of in the show. So they sort of, I think it's an Easter egg that they one of her crew is named Michio, but essentially Drummer is Michio in this story. But anyway, Darrin, your thoughts on this whole thing?
Yeah, well, like I said, I think they were obviously hearing what I was saying last week, since they take her sidearm the moment the drummer walks on the ship. So I'm like, they know that she's supposed to shoot him in the face. So that was a little disappointing. But no, I mean, it was just the dynamics between Drummer and Marco are just awesome. I mean, obviously, we are aware of the history and of what Drummer feels towards Marco, and Marco very aware of how she must be feeling. So it's a lot of great back and forth and sort of tension and maneuvering. But her crew is right. I mean, there isn't a choice. And I think that's a lot of really what this episode was about, is just showing that, as much as she hates Marco, as she doesn't want to be in this position, she has to play along at the very least now. And yeah, you're right. They don't visually, I don't think they've given us as much of a feel of how strong Marco is. I mean, we know that he has a lot of people and that he, obviously had Tycho and he's the power to throw rocks at Earth. And we have had Sakai saying, there are so many of us over so many places, so many stations. But I don't think kind of until this episode did we really start to get the scope when they're mentioning he's got 22 different factions that are allied with him, and he's going to combine all of them, do something that no one else has done, and unite the entire belt. I think this was really the first kind of time that we got that sense of scope, that this isn't just a guy claiming to now speak for the belt, that he actually has the political leadership, that he has the connections. And I think that's something that we, at least I don't recall really getting that firm handle on. I know they talked about it last season, that he could unite, that he could bring people together. But now, I can't remember the two factions, Golden something there that they had mentioned.
Golden Bow and Black Skies.
Golden Scout, there you go.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And that's why he killed Fred Johnson, because he didn't go after Anderson Dawes yet, but Fred Johnson and Anderson Dawes were the leaders of the belt. They're the leaders of the OPA, so he had to sort of eliminate. Even though he didn't kill Anderson Dawes, he did take his power away by stealing Kotazar. So he had to go after those two, so he could become the new top dog. So now all the factions are coming to him, because Fred Johnson's dead and Anderson Dawes has no power, so they can't help them anymore. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think this was the first time we really, as at least, myself as audience, got to kind of really understand what is the scope that Marco actually does have behind him. But yeah, I mean, otherwise, like I said, the dynamics were great. It is very smart of Marco to do that hostage exchange, crew exchange, to make sure that he's got one of his that are loyal on the ship, and he's got a hostage to make sure that Drummer's going to do what he says. Who was it in the chat here that had mentioned, if I get back up, waiting for Corral to get shanked by Drummer? I'm sorry, I'm not missing it in the chat. But
I don't know. Again, it's off book, so I don't know.
Oh yeah, Sentient here. Looking forward to Shamina shanking Corral. Yeah, if you can't shoot Marco in the face, then you can shank Corral. I think that's the trait. We'll get somebody that makes a voice like her, just hold her head up. Oh yeah, everything's fine. I'm still alive. Don't kill anybody. I think they can pull that off. I think they got a good crew there. I think they can pull that off.
In all seriousness, and again, this isn't the books, this is off books, so I'm not saying any spoilers here, I'm guessing. But my guess would be that that's not going to happen, because in seriousness, if they did kill her, then her man on his ship is dead. And
then she would be blackballed and the whole fleet would go after. So it's going to be a little more complicated, and that does sort of change things out. I think it would be funnier the other way, but this isn't a comedy show. More of a drama. But
why are they not going the comedic route by having Naomi call Holden while he's in the shower?
But I think, I don't know. Maybe this will now Naomi has an unknown ally, because I don't know who this person on the crew and how much he is aware of who Naomi is. I was thinking with her on with Drummer getting onto Marco's ship, that might be an off for Naomi. Obviously, she is now going to be suspicious that Naomi is on the ship, or at least accessible to Philip.
Oh, no, I think Drummer totally knows Naomi's on that shit. I think Philip totally ruined that. I was like, why do I have to tell her? Like, Drummer's smart enough to figure out. Like, and Marco just shoots him and she sees Marco shoot Philip the look, and he's like, oh yeah, sure, go ahead, tell her. And I blame Marco for that, because he should have given Philip the heads up that they wanted to keep that from him.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, I'm kind of curious where that, because obviously the Naomi Drummer connection is going to be very important. How that's going to come in and play, I am very curious. But I am kind of excited now where their chess pieces are being set.
Now I wonder if listen, the chat there, she mentioned, I think out of last week or the week before, Darrin, you mentioned how you didn't necessarily think Marco was an effective villain, and especially watching this episode, I'm thinking so much. I disagree with that. I actually think he's a brilliant villain. I think he's one of the better villains of the show to rival Aaron Wright. Just me. That's just my opinion. Maybe my opinion's clouded by the books, because he was such a great villain there too. But I don't think the actor does that bad of a job. I think the actor actually does quite a good job of portraying him as a swarmy, has that sort of, because he was described as someone who's like has charisma and just charms people and everything. And manipulative. I think he does a great job of coming off as a manipulative bastard. So for me, he's like the good type of villain, like the Golden Cop type of villain that you think you love to hate and you want to see more of. Whereas Sakai is the get the fuck off my screen type of villain, which I just can't stand her. But that's just me. I think he's brilliant.
Sure. Hey, everybody having different opinions. That's what makes life really interesting. People can be wrong. That's all right. No, I mean, I am impressed certainly with certain aspects of his performance, for sure. I just think a lot of the some of the choices that he made are kind of simplistic, and unfortunately, you've seen so many really interesting actors find really interesting choices and bits in here that I just don't totally grasp with him on this. But again, I'm not faulting the actor. He's worked a lot. He's accomplished a lot of things. It's just, for me, this particular, personification is coming off as more, what, as Lisa say, more mustache twirly villain.
I completely disagree with that personally.
Yeah.
and Alyssa said that it's too mustache twirly and too much like a South American drug lord, but I actually like that drug lord vibe. Like, you ever see Narcos? The freaking Pablo Escobar is a brilliant villain, and I think,
you mean Marcos?
And I think Marco's kind of rivaling that personally. I don't know. That's just me. Don, do you want to weigh in on this?
Listen, you know how I feel about that greasy fucker. Look, he killed millions of people. He's planning on killing more. And for what? For something that he can't hold on to for life. I mean, well, not for life, but I mean, like, look, once he's gone, then what? This whole thing about, I had to do it for revenge or all the years of Belter oppression. Hey, look, you know what? I come from an oppressed group. And I'm not sitting up there thinking about committing a fucking genocide, right? So, I mean, and then him basically forcing everyone else to get in line with him. I'm just like, you know what, no. Look, I don't think he's going to wind up dying at the end of the season, but he officially is, for all intents and purposes, he is King Fuckboy of the entire
Well,
So,
all right. So here's the thing, Don. There is you don't have to agree with what he does for him to be a great villain. In fact, it's better if you don't agree with what he does. Like Golden Cot was participated in genocide and thought of himself as a savior, but he was still a great villain. And so I think it's the same way with Marco. I think the fact that he's such a fucking bastard and he managed to accomplish destroying Earth, and he does actually a good job of manipulating his own fucking son and other people. Like he pulled off this coordinated attack where they were managed to totally devastate Earth and almost completely destroy it and kill Fred Johnson and grab power and have all these ships. I mean, that's impressive, and I think that makes him a very notable villain. Just my opinion.
I mean, look, he's notable for his actions. To me, he I don't know. He hasn't been as compelling to me as of yet. You know, and why are there so many Marco supporters in the damn chat? What the hell is going on here?
Yeah, I was going to put it in the chat. Okay, so Peter says, why are people talking about him as a villain? He's the liberator of the belt. Hey, yeah, Beltalana. And Mike DeCarlo says, he's a visionary. There we go.
Yeah, he's a visionary. Someone needs to take out his damn eyes. But anyway, I mean, listen, like I said, obviously he planted his crewmen on Drummer's ship because he plans on taking her out of here. It's just a matter of time before he sends her a message. And it's like, all right, yeah, I hear she has relations with many of crew members. Next time she go to shower, you make like show from Eartha, from Eartha past ours, and you get her in the shower.
Sure. And the next scene is Crawl calling back to Marco going, no, everything went just fine. I'm alive. I'm taking off the ship now.
Yeah, so
they're gonna do the whole weekend at Bernie's thing. They're gonna go over to Marco's ship. They're like, here she is. She's right here. See?
They just get the magnetic boots connected to their boots, and they can walk her along. Yeah, there's a whole thing that you can do.
Yeah, I mean, look, as far as villains are concerned, Marco is okay, but I just I don't know. Like, so he's not. There's something there's a certain gravitas missing to him from me.
All right, well that's fair. I mean, I can agree with that more than listening to Chad saying this is two-dimensional mustache twirl. I'm sorry, I completely disagree. I totally will compare Marco with Golden Cot. I do think he is on the level, but that is.
I think that might be too far.
You think that's too far? I don't know. Maybe it's because I read the books. I don't know. Maybe that's.
I'm talking about show Marco.
Yeah, but maybe I'm injecting some of what I read into what I'm saying in the show is what I'm saying. But I think he's coming off great in the show as well. But that's just me. I like what Alexandra in the chat says, that I was lukewarm on Marco actor, no matter how hot he is, until this episode. I was sold when he delivered that killing us slowly line. And that's the other thing, is that I think this episode really sold it for me. Like, I was a bit maybe kind of unsure about him, but I think this episode really sold me that the actor is playing this role really well. And he did come off as a really methodical villain to me, but that's just me. Anyway, Alyssa says it's blasphemy. But hey, we'll have some interesting discussions about this next week. Anyway, Cardinal Doomsday says that Marco's also not in Golden Cot's league. I don't know. Golden Cot kind of went off the rails there at the end, thinking he was a Paul Rafe and trying to and just trying to mess around with Kai Wynn. So
we do not acknowledge season 7 Golden Cot. Golden Cot died on Kardashian Prime.
Anyway, all right. So yeah, I think that's about it. And unless anyone else has anything else they want to talk about,
Nope. I think
Nope.
we got it all. Those space people did mention, do you know they were all wearing vac suits to hide Kara G's pregnancy? I wasn't aware of that.
I was not aware of that until I watched the after show where they mentioned it. And she apparently had just given birth, I believe, like a month ago. So, but they were filmed as 8 months ago. So she was, I believe, only like 1 month pregnant. She said. So it wasn't showing too much, so they didn't have to film her from the shoulders up or anything like that. But yeah, I guess they did wardrobe her that way. And it's funny because on the after show they had Karaji and the actor who plays Marco, and he was talking about in the scene they were actually good friends before they did the show, and he was talking about how the scene they had together, that while he was giving the huge charismatic speech, that she bumped him with her pregnant belly as a way to distract him. And he was like, "God damn you," which I thought was pretty funny. All right, so yeah, let's go ahead and end this discussion there. Thanks so much for joining, both of you. Don, you want to give a shout out of what you're up to, what's going on, and how much you love Marco Nars?
Yeah, so you can find me on the Twitter at I Don Willi, at IDONIWILLI. I make funny tweets every now and then. Also, you'll find me, if you like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. or Agent Carter, you find me with this man here on these reviews. And then sooner or later, because it is New Year and I say I'm going to do video for House of the Dragon, I will do House of the Dragon videos, and you'll see in background here, I will have books for related to Game of Thrones or in Song of Ice and Fire, HBO things or something like that. But for now, thank you for having me as always. I'll be back here sometime to do more Expanse, and hopefully I get to argue with you about Star Trek Discovery or something like that at some point. But for now, I turn it over to my friend Darrin, who has some kind of glasses on, but I cannot tell what kind of glasses they are. I might need glasses myself.
Yeah, I gotta do it to read. I can try and be all blind and make things up, but nah, I just gotta be straightforward here. Gotta be honest. Hi everyone, I'm D. I'm at D's Reviews. You can catch me here most weeks doing the Expansion with Mark. There, unfortunately, next week I've got to make a trip through the ring gates myself. I'm not sure if communication's going to be up, so I may not be here next week, but I think this guy right here, where's my camera? This guy is going to help fill in for me for next week. So if I can't get in here, you will definitely have at least an exciting crew talking about next week's episode. For me, you can actually caught myself and Don and Rob, who popped in the chat a little bit earlier, and Corey Schumacher. We are doing our big season 1 review of Agent Carter this Sunday at 4:00 Pacific over on my channel, D's Reviews. Gonna go long, very exciting. Actually, we're not even not only just covering season 1, we're also covering the one shot for Agent Carter that was on the special features for Iron Man 3. So yeah, big Agent Carter discussion, 4:00 this Sunday, Pacific time on D's Reviews. And now we'll turn it right back over to this guy here, Mark.
All right, so my channel's Enchantment of Eternity. I'm Mark. If you're joining me for the first time, I do have reviews on The Expanse every week and these lovely discussions on The Expanse every week, as well as I have many other videos on The Expanse and other shows like Star Trek, which I'll be covering extensively. And this weekend, I will be doing a live discussion with my sister, Alyssa, who's there in the chat, saying wrong things about Marco and ours. Anyway, we'll have an interesting discussion on Star Trek Discovery Season 3, which just ended. We're doing that Saturday night at God damn it. 8 o'clock East Coast time, 5 o'clock West Coast time. So be sure to join us for that. And I'll be having my season 3 Discovery review will be coming out sometime next week as well. And I continue to do reviews on various Star Trek shows, Breaking Bad. Oh, God, I love that fucking show. And The Outer Limits. So be sure to check out my channel for all that. And thanks so much for joining. And we'll see you all next time.